What's up guys, what's up? Welcome to another episode of me analyzing your replays, not pro replays. And today we have a replay from Astromi, a 4.7k Masters Protoss playing against the Terran. And today's session will focus around... efficiency and resource spending, unit compositions and unit positioning. So let's go. To start out with, of course, at the beginning, this is a Masters player. Astromi is Masters, so of course the opening will be more or less on point. Actually more on point. I'm saying more or less because a lot of Masters players don't have their opening that sound. Actually, I don't have my opening that sound and I'm 6k, so there you go. But the opening is on point. I would talk about the wall of course. You could just put the Cybercore one space above and you would be fine. However, we don't have this map in our map pool anymore, so who cares? Astromi going for the Adept Stalker, which is very common. Lately, 2 Adepts, 1 Stalker has been coming up as well, which I really like because you can pressure the Terran a lot. It's really fun, but in this case, it's 1 Adept Stalker. Also moving over with the Adept, not getting the Reaper, actually getting the Reaper. Oh, nice cancel right there. I like that a lot. Very attentive, and this very attentiveness will go through the entire game. It's very fascinating to see just how much attention Astromi shows to the small things, which we will see later on. Astromi going for the 3-gate blink, which done... That was weirdly put. Which was done in a weird way, because usually when you go 3-gate blink, you go Twilight, then Robo, then blink, and then at 2 gates. In this case, we went blink and then into 2 gates and then into Robo. I don't think that will make too much of a difference in this specific game though. They're just very minor factors playing into why we usually do it the other way around. Astromi also checking with the Adept, which is really great, and really regularly checking with the Adept, which will reward him with this beautiful thing. Killing some SCVs, checking out what the Terran is doing. Terran is going for the 3 Rex after the 1-1-1. Sees everything. It's beautiful. Nothing too special to see here though. Like, and that's on its own always a good thing. If you don't see anything special, that on its own is a good thing, right? In the meantime, Astromi being ready for the Widowmine drop that we, while talking, weren't ready for. The Terran going for a Widowmine drop. As I said, if there's nothing special going on, it's a thing on its own, and nothing special oftentimes leads to a Widowmine drop. Oftentimes it is a Widowmine drop. So we got that. Meanwhile, Astromi going for the 3rd gas, not mining from it. I'm just talking about all of this just to give you like a general feel for how the game went, which is pretty fucking normal. Everything has been pretty normal. No major fuck-ups at all. Now we get to the first questionable part. Right, now we get to the first questionable part, and that is wobbing in these 2 zealots, which is interesting because I think I already talked about this in another episode of I Analyze Your Replays, but a key component of how to play Protoss is to get your production up as quickly as possible without building units. That is one of those key components that honestly, until you hit like 6.2k, you can always get better at, because you can always be a little bit more greedy. In this case, what happens is Astromi still adds the gateways, of course. He's right now on 3. Those will be number 4 and 5. Those will be number 6 and 7. But those 2 zealots, plus 100 minerals, could have easily been 2 more gateways, so we would be at 9. 8 is the magic number, but having more doesn't hurt, especially if you're already going for a 3rd base. Astromi also delaying the upgrade, but that's kind of a meme, honestly, saying, well, you delayed your upgrade by 5 seconds. Just lost the game. That isn't the case. I just want to point out this first little bit of mistake in efficiency of resource spending that we talked about at the beginning, that's going to be a topic. We also see Astromi oftentimes float around 500 minerals, not more, not less. It's one of those numbers where it's obviously not 1k, where you just have to say, look, something is obviously big time missing. That's not what this is. Remember, we're talking about a Masters player. So it's not a big thing that's missing. It's a lot of small things. So in addition to the gateways that are a little bit later and that are a little bit fewer than they could be, we have the Immortal that hasn't been started yet, or the Prism, or whatever you want. We have the gas that hasn't been built yet. That might be a decision, just saying you could be building the gas, right? We have this static D that hasn't been built yet, which you don't really have to build, right? There's a lot of options that you could be going for. Going for the Immortal is a no-brainer, because, well, you want the robo to be building shit, because the robo is one of the only buildings of Protoss that really takes a lot of time to be building compared to like a warp gate where you can just instantly warp in. If you grab the gases while floating minerals, that basically means you open your tech paths up, so you have more reaction, you have more freedom in your reactions in that PvT, while you can see what the Terran is doing, and then you will have more gas to tech up if you need to, but you don't have to, right? It's just like being a little bit more decisive, being a little bit more quick with your spending of the minerals opens up a lot of things, and you will feel less pressure, because the replay was actually titled like feeling pressured, and that would help a lot with feeling pressured. It's just like opening up your options by spending those minerals, right? Now Astronomy is spending those minerals. As I said, we're talking about a Masters player here, so it's not like he's gonna float up to 2k and then notices. No, he notices very quickly and then goes back up. That's the interesting part. Although that on its own isn't a problem, as we can see in a little bit. But Astronomy going for the shield batteries, which of course is not a bad thing on its own. But part of resource efficiency is also, again, taking the gases so you have the gas for later on. Of course, Astronomy here is probably going for a charge shot heavy style. But then again, for a charge shot heavy style, we need more gateways. So as you can see, everything just kind of like the problems kind of click into each other. Like, basically what we need to do is be more decisive in what we want to do, right? And if we are more decisive and like think about that decisiveness, what will happen is, wait, I want to go a lot of charge shots, so I need a lot of gateways, and then we spend the minerals on the gateways. Or, wait, I want to be ready for more things, I want to play this more free flow, so how about I grab the gases now? Or in this specific case, we could have done both, because we had that many minerals. It is always very essential to check your resources when you check your replays and see, oh yeah, right, we can do both, or we can do this. Like, there are so many options, basically. It's just a little bit hard, of course, to figure out stuff if you're only floating like 500 minerals. Anyways, now we get to the point where floating 800 minerals isn't a problem, because we can just warp in a lot of things, because while the gateways were of course a little bit late, Astronomy already has the magical number of 8 gateways for this point in time, so we're good. In the meantime, there's a Vitamin drop happening, and Astronomy fucking pulls his probes. Like, damn. That is attentive. That is so good. While defending here with the shield batteries and not blinking forward, because, well, we have to deal with the Vidamines here. That is so beautiful. That is so amazing. I am impressed with that shit. I'm very impressed. Just look at this. And not even floating minutes. I mean, to be fair, like, we're not really mining a lot of shit right now, but that is some impressive shit. Of course, Astronomy started the Immortal a little bit later. That is luckily one of those things where I can just say, just build out of your robo, no matter what. Almost no matter what, unless you're going for something very specific, just use your robo. The rest is kind of like decision making, right? And now Astronomy goes into High Templar Archives, which leads to the second point we wanted to talk about today. The first point was resource spending and efficiency in that manner. The second point is unit composition. And this is a very specific PvT point. Unit composition, right? We see Astronomy going for the High Templar Archives, which this is probably not going to come as a surprise to you. I hope this doesn't spoil anything. I watched this replay once already. It goes into Storm. It goes into Storm. And the problem with Storm and PvT right now is that you are on a timer. You are on a timer, and that leads to problems, right? Because with Storm, it's just a matter of time that your Terran opponent has Ghost. And unless you get the High Templar Archives a lot quicker than we got here, as you can already see, Ghosts are already on the way. So I would straight up say, if you want to play like a straight up macro game, don't go for Storm. If you want to play a passive style, don't go for Storm. That would be my #1 recommendation. which of course is something very simple, which is something I usually don't do in these videos, just tell you what to do. But Storm sucks, right? Storm sucks. No. Storm doesn't suck. Ghosts make High Templar suck because we don't have any storms anymore, right? So just wanted to mention that while we look at the Terran army moving out with a lot of Widow Mines, and this will go back a little bit to the point I made about resource spending. Now imagine we took the gases earlier, right? Imagine we took the gases earlier, we meant them earlier. Our gas count would be way higher, right? That would also lead to us being able to react to those Widow Mines, because in this specific case, these Widow Mines crush our army composition of mainly zealots. Like, it just crushes them. It just freaking crushes them. If we had more gas, we could have looked at the Widow Mines and be like, you know what? I can go for Colossi now. I can go for Storm and Colossi because we have more gas. Of course, not like heavy, we can't go to like double Robo Colossi, but we can react more to what the Terran is doing and create a more free flow, right? So basically, we either have to be on point with our macro and hit a timing with the lack of gas. That would be like decisive, like a decisive point where we don't take the gas to like really strong charger timing, or we grab the gas and play free flow. Those are like the two options. Another thing, the third point we want to talk about already comes up as well. Like a lot of things are coming up right now, and that is positioning. And positioning always connects with vision. If you look at a Stormy's vision, it is very low. Once again, the problem is we didn't really build a lot out of the Robo, and we didn't grab the gases, so we couldn't even have built that much with like that many observers, for example. So the bio army surprises our poor Stormy, and the Nexus is getting taken down. Of course, the Stormy is on point, grabs the other Nexus or wants to grab the other Nexus, but we also have a little bit of a bank right now. Which now, of course, at this point in time for Protoss isn't too much of a problem. We just build the Nexus, build some Zealots with Warbins, we're done, boom, bank is gone. We good. Stormy also on 10 gateways, adding gateways, very smart. Storm is ready now, and the ghosts are not here yet, so we can fight into this. But once again, we were not in position for this fourth base. As you can see, the Terran has set up, and Terran oftentimes, specifically Terran, but almost in every matchup really, it's all about setting up. Like the Widow Mines are in place, we can't fight into this. Like we want to, because we want to save the fourth, but we cannot fight into this. So what does a Stormy do? Half fights into it, which is also always a bad idea. But then actually no, a Stormy fully commits, hits the storms, and it works out for it. Very risky. Very risky. Probably a better Terran would have crushed the army here, but I don't mind that. But the problem with this is, next to the Widowman drop, that is it gonna do damage? 6 probes after 8 Widow Mines and like 20 Widowman drops, that's okay. But the problem with this fight is we took a fight that was probably going to be a bad fight for nothing. We didn't defend anything. We didn't grab the fourth base. We're grabbing it now, but by now the Terran army would have left anyways, or would have gone into a position where we could have had a better fight. If you take a fight into a bad position, or into a position where the Terran is, or rather where the opponent is set up, always do it for a reason. Be it I have attack advantage now, or I can kill him now and end the game, or I have to defend my base. Doing it for no reason is a bad idea. Right. Widowman drop is still happening, but this time, as far as I remember, Astronomy is on point. Fucking beautiful. Like that awareness is amazing. Having a cannon in place as well in every base, so those cloaked Widow Mines aren't as annoying as they could. God damn it. I'm gonna ignore that. And we get into the next stage in the PvT. Ghosts are out. That is the next big stage, right? Ghosts are out. And as Protoss, you have to be ready for that, because ghosts will always be out. At a high level, ghosts will always be out. And on a low level, you should always play like ghosts are out. It's just too dangerous not to. So you have to be ready. And while a lot of the things we already talked about already led up to this point of like resource spending in the early game, and gas and so on that made us have a really late transition into Storm and not possible to transition into Colossus. Now we have to have a Colossus transition ready because Ghost out, but we don't have that ready yet. As Protoss, it is kind of your job in a straight up game to always out-tech your opponent in a way, especially if you go for Storm, which I wouldn't recommend. We still take good fights because the Terran fucks it up here. No MPs are being set down, so Terran has to disengage somewhat, but then of course MPs then land and Archons are useless, right? But we don't have anything ready right now because of the early game, how it worked out, because we're not mining gas, and because we couldn't take the 4th base because of the unit positioning. All the points we have made, all the points we have talked about, all lead to this point where we as Protoss cannot transition into a better composition, and as such we'll slowly but surely over the next 7 minutes die. Because it's not really possible if the Terran plays it as well to transition into anything because we have a shitty army against Ghosts. So you have 2 ways of playing PvT, right? In that sense. If you go Storm, go for a push. Okay, let's put it this way. 3 ways. You either go for a push and do a lot of damage. You go for Colossi instantly and then go for the at the moment common composition, which is Colossi like into Disruptors, and then you have like a Disruptor based composition with a Blink DT hit squad. Or you go into Storm and then you transition and like you try to out transition your Terran opponent and always try to hit with the next power spike. So you get Storm, you hit. You get Storm, you hit. You get Colossi, you hit. You get Disruptors. At that point, you are in the macro game that we talked about in the second point, right? So those are the options you have. If you go Storm, I would always go for like a big fat push, and hope you kill the opponent with that, because everything else is going to be very tricky because Storm costs so much gas that even when you grab gas, it's going to be tricky. But just saying, like, everything is pretty possible. Even in this game, as you can see, it might be conflicting information, but even this game, of course, this is Masters, but this isn't like a perfect game. So like the theory doesn't completely apply. We still had the gas for DT Shrine. We still had the gas for Robotics Bay. We're still grabbing the gas of the 4th base soon, right? We still have gas left over. No one is macroing perfectly ever. So it is not entirely completely impossible. It's just that you're going to be in a worse spot if you don't instantly think about the transition. And as you can see, Terran is smart. Terran already builds Vikings, so Terran is already out transitioning the Protoss, right? And the rest of the game, as I said, and I'm noticing that the video is getting kind of long, it's just going to be like a slow death for the Protoss. Even though the Protoss has a huge bank right now, and the Terran is not moving out at 200 supply. Okay, I'm talking theoretically, guys. I'm talking theoretically here, okay? Terran is moving out right now, and the thing is, DTs are always good, and the Terran might always fuck up an engagement, right? Terran might always fuck up the EMPs. It shouldn't happen, is what I'm saying. You are in a terrible spot, but it might happen. Now, of course, the Protoss, since we got the 2 bases up and running now we have a huge, amazing bank. We've got 13 gateways, so it's not the worst spot, but it low-key still is the worst spot, because the Terran army with EMP just kind of crushes you, and the Terran is very smart and going like very Marauder heavy. So even though some Storms land, the Terran army is just too strong on even supply. And even though we have 13 gateways is not that good. It's not good enough. So we lose the Nexus, we will also lose the other Nexus, and we will just fall behind. Right, DTs still wreaking havoc. Of course, we can always come back into a game. Even though in theory, everything that I said is true. StarCraft is a very, very dynamic game, and everything can still happen. But as you can see, it kind of comes down to that point, where the Terran has out-teched the Protoss, and now the Bio army just kills the Protoss, because the Protoss doesn't have the big, meaty Disruptor ball or anything else really to fight with. Archons, of course, really good at holding until EMPs get out, at this point in time, the Terran only has like 1 ghost. So Terran once again fucked up by not building more ghosts. But ghosts will be out soon and this will be over. Let's go through it real quick. Actually, Terran is not building ghosts. Because we killed the Ghost Academy. Very smart. Look, let the end of this video be a lesson to everyone. Theory is great. Theory is great to keep in mind. Being more decisive is great to keep in mind. But after all, it almost always comes back down to mechanics. And late game decision making is a completely different thing. And when your opponent doesn't know how to finish a game as Terran, you will always be able to come back. Never give up. That is going to be the lesson of this video. Never give up. Until you've got 8 Archons and the Terran still has 3 ghosts, even though they didn't build anymore, and Archons just kinda die. But that was a well played game by both of them. I hope this video helped you guys, in theory, to keep some things in mind about your games. Of course, the 3 points we talked about, the 3 main points, are resource spending, being more efficient, and how even small inefficiencies might lead to problems, especially when you don't take the gases, even though you could, because that leads to number 2, unit compositions, and not being able to react to the Terran, and just being very limited in your compositions, and as such being always in a very pressured position. And number 3, just general unit positioning. And being ready to defend the spots you have to be, getting vision up with more observers that you could have built out of your robo, and even pylons. Even though I didn't mention that, even pylons. Vision is very important. Being in position is very important. Guys, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, of course, as always, feel free to like, share, subscribe. This has been a little bit of a longer video because the replay has been a little bit longer. I hope it helped. If you enjoyed it or want to discuss some things, join my Twitch channel. I stream every day 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. 10 p.m. 8 p.m. CAST link down below. Take care, guys. Have a good one. Peace.